Hi there, my name is Julie. I'm going to be teaching a village yoga foundational class here this morning. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope to see you in the studio soon as things begin to open up. And so this is a foundational class. I know many of you have been taking these classes for a while, and you've started to understand the concepts of the movement of yoga, of asana, of breathing, of focus. But we'll I'll just do a quick run through over those three ideas here. So let's meet on the mat, and we will either use a block to sit on in a comfortable seat, or if you have a bolster or a pillow, or if you'd rather even just lay down on your back and just rest for a few minutes as we kind of go through this. That's up to you. So we're in Sukhasana. I'm in a comfortable seat sitting on the block. And I'm just going to rest my hands on my knees and begin to lengthen through the spine. So if you decide you need to lay down for a stretch, go ahead and stretch it out. And if you'd like to join into a Sukhasana, comfortable seated posture at some point, do so. So wherever you are, you're just feeling the lengthening of the spine and feeling into the body. And just trying to work around the distractions of your day. And one very helpful method of removing the distractions is to set up your yoga mat in a place that is relatively quiet and where you feel secure and comfortable, so that the environment is one that you can kind of let go, turning either the music off or turning the music on, turning the TV off, and just finding that space, maybe even lighting a candle, or using incense, or using aromatherapy is another good way of just kind of getting yourself into a place where this yoga practice has the most potential to bring you to a place of comfort and ease. So just keeping that in mind when you're setting up your mat. And yoga asana, just as a refresher, asana has several different meanings. It means the seat of the practice. It means the posture itself. So when we're doing a yoga asana practice, or maybe a flow class, the idea is that you are moving from one posture to the next, flowing through what would be considered a vinyasa. So a vinyasa is not always moving through a sun salutation to get from one posture to the next. It's whatever that prep action is to bring you there. Sometimes it's just inhale and opening your arms and just feeling the energy into the body, and then moving into that next posture. So yoga asana, it's not just about the posture itself. So looking at a posture, or even following a teacher, or looking at a magazine, or following a video, and you see the posture, but there's a lot more going on in each posture than what you see. So the asana, once you get into a posture, wherever it is that your body will allow you into at this time, is one thing. But then how you approach it. If you're approaching it with a mind that is unsettled, and attitude that is struggling to get into that position and really almost hurting yourself to get there, that is not the true intention of a yoga asana. So once you find that posture that you're going into, and then just take note of how you feel in that posture. Is it a place that you could stay in, 5 minutes or so if you had to? If not, maybe back off a little bit. And then notice as your breath moving freely and moving with ease, like without any tension in the breath. So even breathing, even inhales with even exhales in length of time, and also just smooth breathing. So you're not like holding your breath along the way and then really forcing it in or forcing it out. Okay, so all of that's very important in the foundational concepts of yoga. And normally you pick up on that as you move through any yoga class. It's just the teacher is continually saying, breathe deeply in and out. You know, we very rarely, especially in the beginning, unless you're moving through breath control practices, pranayama, suggest that a student, especially in a video, hold their breath. Because you never know, some people that causes either high blood pressure or it does change things in the body. So unless that's something that you've been doing for a while and you've gone through a practice and you've learned from a teacher correct pranayama, maybe just stay with that breathing in and out through the nose, okay? Or in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth is okay too if you need like a cooling, cleansing breath. So asana and breathing come together. So each movement, each asana, it ties in with the breath, and the breath comes before the movement. So normally when we're speaking of breath and movement, it's inhale to lengthen and exhale to either fold forward or to move deeper into a posture. So it's that inhale, opening, taking deep, full breaths in through your lungs, letting that diaphragm spread your ribs apart, and then exhale, coming back to neutral. Breath coordinated movement, vinyasa. So breath, body, and the gaze. The other item central to all of our practices is our gaze. It's what we call our dristi. So believe there's like 9 dristis that we use for the most part in our yoga practices. Many times you'll hear your gaze is to the tip of the nose, or your gaze is up towards the sky or your third eye. The gaze is to your navel. The gaze may be to the right corners of your eyes or to the left corners of your eyes. There's times when the gaze is up towards your fingertips. Okay? There's a gaze, I said the navel, gaze to the toes. Okay? So in your asana practice, the gaze is as important as well, because you notice that even like if you're driving or whatever it is that you're doing and you have a goal and you have an intention and you're moving in a direction, you're going to gaze in the direction in which you're moving. So if you're saying I want to go to the right, but and sometimes it's a twist where you're moving to the right and then you're gazing to the left, but normally that you're going to also have more of a central action in the body, or you're using that as a twisting action. But when you're, say, in a downward facing dog and your gaze is to your navel, that's encouraging finding those bandhas and really going deep into the Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. Okay, and a gaze can also be an external gaze. In yoga, we're looking for an internal gaze. We're looking at turning that external gaze into an internal gaze. And many times you'll start your practice, you had a busy day, you have something going on, something stressful in your life, or just life itself, to where your mind is not necessarily focused on this very present moment. It's not focused on being in the room, on your mat, and then into your body. But you'll notice with time and practice that will happen. You will learn how to, shut out all the external world, the distractions from the external world, and you'll learn how to bring your thoughts into your body. And once your thoughts are in your body, it's a very calming effect on the mind. It's very meditative. It's very healthy for the mind to just give your mind a chance to like relax. You're not really shutting down the mind. We're not looking to say the mind to stop thinking. I mean, that's not our goal, but it's to let it relax. And then let the relaxation of the mind encourage the relaxation of the nervous system, the energetic body. It's through that relaxation of the circulation of the digestive body. So there's so many benefits to some of the very simple movements. You'll notice and you'll see postures that might seem, you're like, I'll never get there. And it doesn't matter. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe the posture is not as difficult as you think it looks once you start to get the basics of movement in yoga. So I just wanted to, many times I've been teaching these foundational classes with the assumption that you've heard this already, you know, and I don't want to be repetitive to the point of your thinking, okay. Although I must say, in all the years that I've practiced yoga, which is now over 20 years, I like hearing the repetition personally. That's coming from me as a teacher as well as a practitioner. That's part of what yoga is. It is about repetition. And sometimes those things that become repetitious to you, if it's a good thing, it's like you enjoy it. It's almost like a swing. Like you know what to expect. You know, if you like swinging, or if you like riding a bike or running, you know, that's very repetitious, but it's a place where you can just settle and just go with it. Okay, so for that, yoga is very much in that same vein. And of course, we're all looking, we know that yoga is more than the asana. Yoga is the approach to the asana, and it is also, yoga can be a very spiritual place. And a lot of that comes naturally as well. You know, you may already be a spiritual person, it's going to come very quickly. You may not be a spiritual person, but many times it just creeps in because you're chill. Your worries are gone, and all of a sudden you start to look around and see things in a different light. You start to see how the world works. You start to notice positive input, positive output. You start to see God or whatever. You see the light. You see joy. You see love. And there are days when that comes to you, and there are days when maybe it does not come to you. But you just keep doing the practice. The most important thing I could say about Yoga Foundation is practice. If you practice, all shall come. Tavi Joyce, his quote. Like everybody wants to know, what is the secret of yoga? The secret of yoga is practicing. Even if it's for 10 minutes a day. And sometimes it's 5 minutes a day. Sometimes it's an hour or 2 hours. Okay, it's the more you practice, the deeper you will bring your practice, and the more discoveries you will find. Which is pretty amazing considering some of our moves is nothing more than taking deep inhales and deep exhales. So with that, we're going to come out of our seat, because we've been here a while, and move your block if you used a block. And if you were on your back, just kind of listening to my words, find your way onto your hands and knees. And we're going to start with that very foundational posture of going into a child's pose, active child's pose, balasana, or it's been referred to Uttita Balasana, which is an extended child's pose. So open your knees wide, work your hands forward, shift your hips back, and maybe this is it. That's as far as you're going to go. Maybe you need to drop your forearms down, drop your forehead down, and you're going to stay right here. Many times I see that with new students. That's as far as their body will allow them to go. With time, perhaps you can start working your hips further to your heels. Maybe reach through your arms. You're going to find a deeper stretch in the body. And just let your forehead drop down. For some, you may need to find a block or a pillow. And just use that to let your head touch down. So we're looking for connections Connections on our mat, connections with the world, connections with our body, connections with the earth, and connections even further into the universe. But we're going to start on our mat. And just draw your arms forward, even if your elbows are down. And take 2 deep full breaths here. The wider you open your knees, sometimes the easier it is on the hips. But if that is creating pain or stress through your hip flexors, then draw your knees in a little further and just, again, stretch out your back. We're just stretching our spine out. And take 3 breaths here. Active child's pose. Utthita Balasana, arms extended. For 1, 2, 3. Now inhale, come to your hands and knees. So I know everybody's heard cat-cow. I mean, it's everywhere. You can do a cat and cow standing, you can do a cat-cow on your back, you can do a cat-cow on your chair, and we're going to do a cat and cow on our hands and knees. So the foundation of yoga is finding your hands. Grounding down through the pads of the fingertips, firming into the knuckles and maybe creating a little cupshin, cupshin with your hands, like a frog's hands. Let the wrist be directly under the shoulders, the knees under the hips. Maybe look back at your feet, tops of the feet down, or the toes can be tucked under. For some, they like that stretch of tucking their toes under. It's also can give you a little more stabilization here. And then draw your belly, so draw your front body back to your spine. So it's your entire front body, not just your lower abs. Draw your lower, your mid, your upper abs back. And then push down through the mat and let your crown reach long. Now just we're moving, these are pelvic tilts. So the cow and cat are pelvic tilts. So you're just going to drop your belly, but keep it drawn back and just let it drop down. So you're going to feel your hips lift up, push into the mat, lead your chest forward, lift your chin up, gaze to the tip of the nose. Sometimes that's less stressful than gaze into the sky. And then you've got that breath. So that was with the breath. That was an inhale into your cow, and then exhale, round into your back. Push from the ground, draw the belly in deeper, back to the spine. Let your head go, so draw your chin in. And then inhale, soften into your cow. Sometimes moving through these cat and cow slowly with the breath, you're really going to feel better. You're going to get the benefits of cat and cow in Vinyasa. So drop your hips, draw your chest forward, lift your chin. Take your gaze to your nose, tip of the nose, and exhale, round into your back, gaze to your navel, and do one more. Inhale, cow, and exhale, cat. And then from here, open your knees again. Open your knees a little wider towards the edges of the mat, and bring your toes to touch behind you. Taking your left hand directly under your left shoulder or stepping it slightly to center line, just balance on your left hand and reach your right arm up. Again, if this is not something that you do normally, just take it easy and feel into it. If you've been practicing for a while, really open up wide, gaze to your palms. Now weave that right arm through the left arm and bring your right shoulder down, right ear down, and extend long through your left arm. Trying to square your hips with the breath, maybe working your shoulder down and your ear down. And if this is taking all that you have, you stay here. If you can go and wrap that left hand up and back behind you, either for your waist or for your inner thigh, go there and then twist a little deeper. And then gaze towards the left corners of your eyes. And take 2 deep, fullest breaths. So inhale. For 1, starting with a full inhale, and exhale for 2. Using your left hand to bring yourself back up. Go to the other side. The left arm up, left chest open, gaze up. Weave that arm through, left shoulder down, left ear down. Pay attention to what your body is saying to you. Extend your right arm long out in front of you. Draw that left hip back, right hip forward, stay there. Or go ahead and take the right hand back behind your back, reaching for your waist or your inner thigh, and then just rolling the rib cage towards the long edge of the mat and maybe up a little towards the sky. Gaze to the right corners of your eyes for 2 breaths for 1. And 2. And then using your right hand to bring yourself back up. Coming to your hands and knees once again. So to find your way into what we call downward facing dog, very foundational to our yoga practice. You're going to just tuck your toes and just lift your knees and your hips up to the sky. It may be in the beginning that your heels are lifting high. And that may be, you may be a runner or just have really tight hamstrings or calf muscles or Achilles. And you're going to, your heels will be lifted. And that's okay. Otherwise, maybe you can work your heels back and down to the ground and keep your knees soft. And then pedal through the heels. So this will help release the back of the legs. So this will help strengthen your spine. And just take 5 breaths here. Just bending alternate knees for 1. And 2. And 3. And 4. And 5. Now slowly walk your feet to your hands. And when you get to the front of the mat where your hands were, bring your hands up your shins. So again, foundational class, assuming that much of this is new to you today. Lift your chest forward, work your shoulders back, lead your crown forward, and take that inhale as you come up into this half lift. And then exhale, just fold in, just melt your chest closer to your legs. And then inhale, half lift. And exhale, fold and melt your body to your legs. And again, inhale, half lift. And exhale, fold it in. Now tracing your hands up your legs, you can bend your knees so that you're not straining any of the joints in the body, and come to standing. Now shrugging your shoulders up and back a few times, maybe rolling your shoulders forward, down and back. So I wanted to give you some variations for a sun salutation. It's also known as called vinyasa. But sun salutation A is one of the very basic warm-up asana flows that we go through in yoga. And there's so many variations of it. So I'm going to give you the easiest, most basic that I know of, okay, so that you can always fall back on it, because there'll be days maybe when you're tired and you don't have the energy, or you don't think you do. Sometimes when you do it a few times and you realize you're stronger and you're capable of going further than you thought. But it's good to have it in your toolbox of how to do a sun salutation even when you're not at the height of your game. So finding your feet, grounding down through the base joint of the toes, the outer edges of the toes, working into the center points of your heels. So you're just feeling your feet and they're rooting. Imagine you have roots that are now connecting down into the mat and into the earth, and they're supporting you. From that rooting action, you begin to lift back up. And you start to draw everything back towards one another. So your toes, your feet are either toes touch, heels apart, or feet hip distance apart if you're pregnant or back injured. So once your feet are established, your stance is established, then draw back into the center line. So draw your outer thighs in, draw your hips in, draw your waist in, draw your shoulder blades in, lift your chest, and then just reach your fingers down towards your feet and take your gaze to your tip of the nose. So now on the next inhale, reach your arms forward and up and bring them up towards the sky. The distance of your hands is optional. Shoulders open up wider or palms together. But your hands are reaching up and they're lengthening up. They're not just going up and kind of hanging here. They're working dynamically up towards the sky and your gaze is up in that direction. Or you can keep the gaze to the tip of the nose if it stresses you out to gaze up. And exhale, fold forward. Put stress on the body or in the eyes is what I'm saying. So fold forward. And maybe this is as far forward as you go. So take your hands and connect them to your body. Now find a half lift. That means a straight spine, straight arms, chest forward, and then gaze to the tip of the nose. Now take this half lift with an inhale and exhale, fold in. So draw your chest closer to your legs. Bring your entire front body now back towards your legs. Now lower your hands down, if that means bending your knees deeply or gently, and step back into a high plank position. So from your high plank position, you're going to drop your knees down. This is one option, is to take the tops of the feet down and let the elbows draw back as you take your chest and your chin down with your butt still up towards the sky. And then you're going to roll to your belly. Your hands are now by your chest. And then press from the ground into a cobra. And exhale, lower back down. Now inhale, push your way back to your hands and knees. Tuck your toes under and lift your hips up and back into a downward facing dog. And then your downward facing dog, you're going to take 2 breaths today. So inhale deeply and exhale and inhale and exhale. And gaze forward as you step your feet to your hands. However you get there, take your time. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale, fold in a little deeper. And inhale, rise up. Reaching arms out and up or forward and up. Taking your hands towards the sky, your gaze is lifted up. And then come back to standing into Samasthiti. So we're going to repeat that. So that becomes an option for you in your sun salutations. So inhale, arms come up, gaze is up. Exhale, fold it forward and just reach for the ground. Inhale, half lift, gaze to the horizon. Exhale, step back into a plank position. If this is too much on your back, then keep your hips lifted up slightly. If your back is fine, there's no problems, no issues with your spine, drop your hips and lead your chest through your shoulders. And just drop your knees down. So you're going to work your elbows back by your ribs as you lead your chin and your chest down, but you keep your bottom up. And then you roll down to your belly without moving your hands, coming to the tops of the feet and press from your hands, lift up into cobra. So you see your elbows are bent, and then exhale, lower back down, and using your hands to build the strength in the body, come to your hands and knees And you can either move into a child's pose, or you would tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and find down dog. So wherever you've gone, child's pose or down dog, take 2 breaths for 1. And 2. So if you were in child's pose, then you would just tuck your toes, find your way into down dog, and slowly walk your feet to your hands, looking towards your hands, into half lift. Exhale, fold in, and inhale, rise up, gaze up, and come back to standing. So we're going to change this variation a bit. That's one option. Chin, chest, hips stay lifted, rolling through into cobra, and then back into either down dog or child's pose. Another version, sun salutation A. Inhale, you're going to reach your arms, so let's say forward and up, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, fold forward and reach for the ground. Inhale, half lift. So you may have your hands to your shins, straight arms, straight back, soft knees. Exhale, hands down, step back into your plank position. Nice strong plank position. Drop your knees down. Now keeping from the crown of the head to the tail, one nice long line. Okay, so it's like a plank. You're just going to draw your elbows back and let your chest move forward and down. And right, just let it hover so it doesn't come all the way down. Then press away, straight through your arms, open through your chest. Okay, this would be like your upward facing dog. And then again, you can move through your hands and knees. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back, and go to down dog or child's pose. So let me speak through down dog for you. Down dog, your fingers are spread wide and evenly. You're pushing into the pads, firming into the knuckles. Your arms, your hands, the action is like pushing a car up a hill. Your biceps are drawing towards your ears, so the action is coming back to center. So you're pushing away, but then towards your arms, towards one another. Keeping your shoulders drawing up and back away from your ears, and letting your shoulder blades kind of spread out. So you're going to find your gaze to your navel, which will encourage your hips lifting higher, sitting bones lifting higher. Your breath is full and free. Your gaze again to your navel, so draw your chin in. And your feet are hip distance apart. Your legs are drawing towards one another. Your front thighs are drawing back. And then from your downward facing dog, you're probably getting a little tired here. Just gaze to your hands and slowly walk your feet to your hands. So there's many movements in one sun salutation. Inhale, half lift, straight arms straight back, crown reaching. Exhale, fold in. And inhale, reaching your arms either forward and up, out and up, or lengthen up. Breath is up. And then back into standing. So foundational yoga. Many of you will experience your wrist don't feel as strong as they should, or as you wish they were. So just what we do to strengthen our wrist is we do the practice carefully, don't overdo it. You can also get a wedge. There's like a block that some people use that seems to help them because it kind of lifts. It's a wedge form. If you went and looked at any workout place, Dick's Sports, any sporting shop, they would probably have what they call a yoga wedge. It's just about that high, and then you would put your hands with the wedge facing you, so the wedge would be thicker here and then go thinner, and your hands would then go down, which would release some of the pressure on the wrist. That's one thing to think about. But also sometimes just rolling through the wrist helps. Just doing wrist exercises, hands and knees, doing all those wrist exercises that you've probably done or have seen people do with where if you're on your hands and knees and your wrists are bothering you, you would take your fingers back towards your knees and just push into that wrist area. Maybe shift your hips back. That's going to help kind of alleviate the tension. You can also, just taking your fingers out to the side, that changes the dynamics and what's going on in the body. And just moving on there. Taking your hands forward and then maybe making a fist. I find this really helps to to strengthen the wrist and to ease any pain that you might be feeling. And if you want to go further with this on your fist, so my thumb is on top of my fingertips, not inside, it's on the top to the outside. The elbows would go back and you just kind of put some weight into it. So that's not only alleviating any tension in the wrist, it's also strengthening the wrist. And then of course there's taking your right palm up, and this you want to move into slowly. If you already have wrist pain, just doing one hand at a time. So now that we are on our hands and knees, let's just cross at the ankles and sit back onto your seat. And find what we call Dandasana. Seating postures are many times more difficult than standing postures. So just to give you a heads up, Dandasana, which is when you're sitting with your legs extended, your heels reaching, your toes coming back to you, and your hands back towards your hips. This is very much equal to what we're doing in Samasthiti, equal standing at the front of the mat. So we're grounding down through the sitting bones. For many people, when you're starting out in yoga, it's very helpful to have a foam block. I happen to have my wood blocks here today, but a foam block is just a little more comfortable on the seat. And when you use a block, men and women, I've found this to be true, if your hips are not very flexible, or you haven't been working with forward folds, and you've probably lost some degree of flex in the hips, it helps to raise the hips up in order to get your forward rotation. Okay, so with a nice straight spine. Because many times what happens in Dandasana, and then you go forward, it's like you immediately go into this rounding, like just rounding into the back and rolling forward. So you're still putting a lot of pressure into the spine. So what we would like to begin to do eventually, and sometimes again lifting the hips up, even if you sit on a pillow, if you have a pillow, a little firmer pillow would be very helpful as well. And you focus on having a nice straight spine as you lead your sternum forward, trying to keep the lengthening in the spine. So and then the hip creases are drawing back as your hips are actually rolling forward. And your sacrum is staying nice and flat. And it may be that you can go like you may be here in Dandasana, and then as far as you're going to go, it's even helpful to put your hands sometimes up towards your sacrum and just promote that sacrum lifting up and drawing you forward. This may be as far as your forward fold is in the beginning, but your chest is open and your spine is long and your arms can be just reaching down your legs. So let's come back into Dandasana and then just going as far as you can, either using a block or sitting up on a pillow or even a blanket. Just a slight lift can make a big difference to your forward fold. Reaching your heels forward and your toes back, and then maybe even taking your hands either to the hip creases or your hands to your sacrum, and just encourage this lengthening of the spine. And encourage not using the rounding of the back to do your forward folds, because there's many different postures of forward folding, and as you begin to approach it with a much straighter spine, you're going to see the results probably that you were hoping to find. And then just tracing your hands down your legs, just lift your sternum, so lift your chest up, and then just let your chin draw in, let your crown reach long, and we'll take 3 breaths here. And slowly lift yourself up and come back onto your back. So laying down on your back. Just bend the knees. Take the arms up and over your head and stretch it out. Now draw your right knee in toward your right shoulder. So you can do this with that left knee bent. If you want to straighten the leg, you can, but just hug the right knee in for a moment. And feel your lower spine grounded. And breathe deeply in and out through the nose. And then release the right foot down and draw the left knee in. And move side to side on your spine. And then lower the left knee back down. Now taking your hands under your hips, extend your legs up to the sky. This may be too much. It may be where your knees are bent. It may be that you have an ottoman or a chair that you could just rest your calves on that chair. Or you would go with straight legs. Again, sometimes placing your hands under your hips will support your lower back. Or if your lower back is fine, you could take your hands behind your legs, interlace your fingertips. And the idea is to get this inversion. It's for your toes, your feet to be above the heart. Once again, you're going to find the stilling of the nervous system, the softening of the mind, as far as finding a way to just let go of all the chatter. It's very good for digestion, very good at stimulating the body, the organs of the body. So we'll take 5 more breaths here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now just bend the knees and roll to the right side of your mat. So you're resting on your right arm. And using your hands, your left hand, your right hand, to bring yourself back up, find yourself back into a seated posture. So you may be crossed at the ankles, like so. You may be stacked at the heels, the left heel in front of the center of the pelvis with the right in front. Or maybe you'll go as far as taking this right heel towards the left hip, a half lotus, and just rest the palms down on the knees. And then try to encourage the lengthening of the spine again. So you're not really pulling yourself into that space, you're just using your hands to create the framework of a nice long spine. And then gaze down towards the tip of the nose. And we're going to take a deep breath in and out. So I'm going to count your inhales. We're going to count for 3 inhale and for 3 exhale. We'll do 3 of those. So inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 3, 2, 1, and inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 3, 2, 1. Now reaching your arms up and then working your hands forward. And maybe again, if you need a block or if you have a pillow for your forehead to come down to, you would take a block and just rest your forehead on that block and take 5 breaths with that same count. So inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 3, 2, 1. Take 4 more breaths. Inhale. 3 more. 2 more. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3, 2, 1. And then walk your hands back towards your hips. Now taking your left hand to the outside of your right thigh, twisting, gazing to the right corners of your eyes, and take 3 breaths here. That same count. I'll let you do that count and breath on your own. 3 breaths. With each inhale, lengthen your spine. With each exhale, twist deeper into the twist. 1 more breath. And come back to center. So I'm going to go to the other side. The right hand to the outside of the left thigh. Take those breaths. So inhale, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, twist for 3, 2, 1. Inhale, lengthen, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, twist deeper for 3, 2, 1. Last deep full inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, twist a little further for 3, 2, 1. And come back to center. Taking your hands back behind you, either fingertips pointing away from you or forward, or you can take your fingertips forward. Going to open through the chest. So it's a slight back bending action. And you either keep your chin drawn in or lift your chin to the sky. And we'll take 3 breaths here. So inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. And inhale. And exhale. 1 more inhale. Deep exhale. Bringing your hands to heart center, gazing over your fingertips. We're going to take 1 Om. Foundational to yoga. Sound of the universe. You'll see it written OM, traditionally AUM. The sound is like A, So take a deep inhale. And exhale fully. So we're going to take a deep inhale, and on the exhale we're going to say Om. So you're going to hear your voice. So take a deep inhale. And releasing your hands to your side. Feeling the sensations in your body just for a moment here. And then turning to the long edge of the mat and coming down onto your back. We're going to find Shavasana. So if you have a bolster or a pillow at home, I'm just going to grab one off the couch here. You can put one under your legs, under your knees. You might rather have it under your back. And just let that pillow support your knees. Taking your hands out in front of you, your palms up. Or you might want to place one on your belly and one on your heart. Shrug your shoulder blades. Take another one of those deep inhales, and this time we're going to exhale through the mouth. So inhale fully, and exhale out through the mouth. Now you're going to release the breath, no longer controlling it. And just let your body go. Feel your eyes dropping deep into the eye socket. Feel your eyes heavy. Lift your tongue, release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Relax your jaw. No clenching of the teeth. Relax your throat. Your shoulders drop down. Release the arms, the ribs, the hips. Let your thighs open up. Let your knees open up, your toes. And if your mind becomes busy, ready to go, see if you can allow the mind to rest on your breath. So following the breath as it moves freely through your body. Sometimes it's helpful to take your thoughts between your eyebrows to your third eye. There's other techniques of stilling the mind, repeating Satanama as you rest in Shavasana. And staying in this position 5 to 10 minutes after each practice when possible. Sometimes you'll notice it's more 2 minutes, but Shavasana is a very helpful posture in coming into that space that we're looking for. Steadiness, ease, and quality, the meditative quality of being present. So I'm going to leave you in Shavasana. So staying here as long as you are able. Shavasana sometimes is the hardest posture to learn. It becomes complex to relax. A lot of people say they just can't relax. Again, I'll see you back on the mat. Back to Shavasana.